Let's work it to the bone. Come on, let's work. Work. Come on, let's work. Come on, let's work it to the bone, bone, bone.
Welcome to the downtown studios of Cranston, New Jersey. You're here at the Commissioner's Cove. Alongside of me is my man, my ace Boku, 13th Legion, and I am the Commissioner, Ricky Let Me Down, where we get together and we talk about fantasy football. So you guys don't have to. So do me a favor, you guys sit back, relax, drink your little cafecito, smoke your little cigar, drink your little bourbon or your whiskey while you're listening to two distinguished gentlemen talk about fantasy football, which we enjoy to do. Welcome down to the Cove on Saturday. I appreciate you coming down. We got a nice little segment today. We talked about what we're gonna the top five in each position in the rookie draft in 2025. We did our research. You did your research. I'm going to come up with my top five: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What I feel are the top five picks and what you feel are your top five picks. So without further ado, let's get down to business. All right. We'll start off with the quarterback position. Is that all right with you?
Why
It's
not?
the sexy position. It's the chocolate cake of the fantasy football draft, fantasy football, fantasy in general.
Yes, but not this year.
Not this year.
This
It's
year,
not looking
this
good.
year it's a very shallow gene pool.
Absolutely.
If you would.
All right. So who do you have in your number one as this is it? Your NFL team you're drafting, or you're an owner in NFL, fantasy football wise, and not fantasy football wise, because there are other quarterbacks in the NFL that are going to be picked number one regardless. I'm talking about in the NFL. Who do you think should be the number one quarterback taken off the draft board? Who do you have?
Well, let me just say this. Like I already said that it's a shallow gene pool this year.
Of course.
There's a lot of quarterbacks that went last year that probably would have been drafted above these guys anyway.
I think Joe Milton would have been up there this year.
You know what though? There's a lot of question marks with Joe Milton was drafted the way he was, because he played in a simple offense in Tennessee and he didn't have finesse. And hey, listen, athleticism and his arm talent is off the board. Yeah, we can all agree on that. But if there was a comp for him, it would have been Anthony Richardson, and we already know what Anthony Richardson's been through.
Yeah.
So listen. We're judging that based on what he did in the preseason and against backup Buffalo Bills players in the regular season.
Yeah.
But I don't want to. This
All
is
right.
about new quarterbacks coming in the league this year. So listen,
Who's your number one?
consensus has got to be for me Cam Ward. 6'2", he's got a quick release. He's got escapability in the pocket. There's some. Listen, no one here is going to be without flaws. He holds onto the ball too long. He's basically done it 1 year. I think he's a 5-year player in college. So is this what you're going to get for the rest of for the rest of his career? Is this something? It's a good mold of clay to work with, is what I'm trying to say. And I think when it's all said and done, I think you're going to be seeing him probably the first pick of the draft if Tennessee keeps that pick. So for me, number one is Cam Ward.
All right, your number one pick's Cam Ward. I am going to shift a little bit. My number one, believe it or not, is Jackson Dart.
Wow.
That's who I have number one. All right, and I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah, tell me why. Tell me why, Commish.
Grading-wise, all right, according to PFF, they're not that different. All right, they're not that different. They're both, like you said, attributes-wise, 6'2". Cam Ward is 223. Jackson Dart's 225. All right, same height, kind of the same weight. Both passer ratings at 91. Cam Ward's 91.7. Jackson Dart 91.9. Okay, runs rating 77 for Cam Ward, 75 for Dart. So they both can run. Okay, so it's not about that for me. I'm gonna tell you in a way, their offense was a little different. Okay, their offense was a little different. Mississippi State. Mississippi, where Jackson Dart came from. I believe ran a different offense. Ran more of a pro offense, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Me grading them, looking at them, seeing the draft, I'm taking Jackson Dart over Cam Ward.
Okay. Hey, listen, Jackson Dart is on my list. He's for me. Well, I'll get to him when I get to him.
I think he's going to have a better career.
Okay.
in the NFL.
Hey, we'll see. I mean, obviously, landing spot has a lot to do with it, and how prepared those NFL teams are in receiving a new quarterback like that, and how ready they are to move on with it.
Well, I just want to add a little stat here.
Go ahead, add a stat.
Mississippi,
I always like stats.
Mississippi, their offense last year, their grade for the offense was 91.7. Miami, 91.3. They're back to back. They're 1-1A. As a matter of fact, my number 2 is Cam Ward. So let's get it out the way right now. It is pass blocking. Mississippi. Okay, pass blocking on the offense, 64.6, and then Miami, as you could see, 76.4.
Yeah, offensive line was. If you take a look, some of the highlights for Cam Ward, he's sitting in the pocket maybe 8 seconds before he has to throw the ball.
So that means to me, in my opinion, that the processing for Jackson Dart is a little bit better than Cam Ward. Because he's not going to get that time in the NFL, especially if he gets drafted by the number 1 overall pick. He goes to Tennessee. The offensive line is not that great.
All right, I see this is developing into a little bit of a debate. Just to let you know, I have Jackson Dart as my number 3 off the board.
Okay,
falls in line with pretty much the way the NFL is grading him right now. You're right. Comps wise, they're the same physicality. The only problem that I see is. Yes, you're right. He had a better offensive line, Cam Ward, and so he had time to process the field. All right. Jackson Dart's got a quick release. He's got rushing threat, which is one of the things that I knocked him for, is because you and I always talk about what do we hate the most out of these quarterbacks? They look at the first read and then they take off running.
Take off.
And that is what you're going to see with Jackson Dart. He can run the ball. He's had 2 straight years of running the ball successfully. And I think he's going to rely on that. We all know that although that's a great option to have in the NFL, and that's going to get you up there, right? You're going to get drafted because of that, because it adds an added dimension, especially in fantasy. But we also know that those types of players get hurt a lot more too. That's what I don't like. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Cam Ward or Jackson Dart have the physical presence to withstand those hits. And I like to see more of a quarterback more so than a runner. That's the only reason why I have him down number 3. And
well, my number 2 is Cam Ward. Kind of the same thing you said. I did see the reason why I dropped him down number 2, what we just talked about, is his offensive line. His offensive line gave him a lot of time. In the NFL, like you said, he's not going to get that time. So you're saying is that Cam Ward turned around and Jackson Dart first read took off. So
I'm not saying it all the time, but
in the NFL, he might do that because he might get happy feet and take off.
Right.
Cam Ward is not going to get that time to have his first read, second read, third read. It's not going to happen. Now, that being said, he was helped out by his run game last year as well, Cam Ward.
Again, Damian Martinez.
Yeah, 95.6 run rating for the offense. That's amazing. Whereas Mississippi, 84.3. So they relied on Jackson Dart a little bit more reps. All right, I relied on his arm a little bit more. So that's just, to me, he has more of a, I think he has more of a pro-ready style offense with the quick analyzing over Cam Ward because of that offensive line.
Okay, and then I'm going to go back to to the last thing that you guys usually. I'm more of an analytical guy. You like to see it on you. You're the eye test guy, right? Guy,
yeah.
So the only thing I have on eye test wise is we both watched the Senior Bowl. We both saw Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
We saw a couple of games that he played in during the regular, the college season. He's got a great arm. I'm not going to say that. He's a little inaccurate at times, so he's going to have to improve on that, just like any young quarterback will. Cam Ward, though, although he didn't go to the combine, he had that little clip with him and Shedeur throwing balls and stuff like that. The zip coming off of his ball just seems so much where if you're in trouble, where he's going to be in the NFL, and he doesn't, and although he has escapability, he doesn't have the run prowess like Jackson Dart does.
Right.
Those types of guys are going to find a way to zip that ball in small spaces. And when I saw the zip on the ball, I think that's just an added dimension to his game. If you're not going to run it, then you might as well get rid of it. And I think he can do that with his arm. That's the only reason why I have him up. I'm not saying that in the long run, Jackson Dart's not going to be good. I'm just saying that just based on these factors, that's where I'm rating them.
All right.
And let's go to my number 2 then.
Number 2.
And it's going to be Shedeur. And the reason why I don't have him
You're
behind,
such a consensus guy.
I am, but
it's what everyone's saying.
I know it's what everyone's saying. All right, but I do take a look at a few things, and again, physicality is the same as Jackson Dart and Cam Ward. What does he have that's different? I can't believe I'm going to say this, but he's accurate. He's accurate.
Okay,
he's accurate.
right.
He's going to be. He fits. Some of his comps are Tua and Brock Purdy, and you can be successful in NFL having those types of body types and that type of physical reliability. His attributes fit well to the quick West Coast game, and I think that's in the NFL. That's what we have, and for a few teams. And I don't feel bad about that. He threw 35 touchdowns last year. There's only 8 interceptions. So, I mean, his knocks are going to be the same as anyone else's. He holds on to the ball too long, and he's not going to be running quarterback, so you're not going to have him take off and run for 600, 700, 800 yards in the season. But he's a very accurate guy. He's quick release, and he doesn't have the zip, but in a pro-style offense, I think he can get it done. That's why I have him as number 2.
Oh, that's fair. Well, I have him at number 3. So we kind of like flip-flop. That's all. That's pretty much it. Again, Shedeur Sanders, 6'2", 215. Okay. He has a prototypical height. He's not the 6'4", 6'5" that you enjoy. Okay, but he has some escapability. He's used to running for his life in Colorado because his offensive line is not that great.
And factored
that
into
does factor
it. Yes.
because he's used to running. So in essence, they're gonna have to teach him to calm down, sit in the pocket just a little long, which he does. He has shown that he can sit in the pocket, taking a hard hit, throwing the ball accurately to his wide receivers. All right, he's not used to a tight end. In the NFL, he'll probably have a tight end. He'll get used to that offense.
And a running game.
I was about to say it. And a running game. In college, last year, his running game, they only 60.5 is the rating for his run game. So his run game was obsolete. He had no run game at all. So it relied on his arm. Okay, the passing was 90.3. Okay, so basically number 1, Mississippi, number 2, Miami, number 3, Colorado.
Yeah,
because of the attempts that they had over the years.
A lot of similarities with, like we said, with these quarterbacks, which is the reason why. Listen, it's going to be preference for a lot of NFL teams.
Oh, yeah.
What is their team built for now? What type of offense are they built for? Which is the best pick for that offense?
Yeah.
I think that's what it's going to rely on. It's going to come down to.
That's fair.
All right, who's your number? Now, since we all agree on number 1, 2, and 3, are we going to disagree at somewhere along the line? Let's try number 4.
Well, number 4 for me, believe it or not, compared him to Tua, like you say, even though you said Shedeur Sanders, I do not. I have Dylan Gabriel number 4.
Yeah, you know what? You did speak highly of him when we were watching.
I have Dylan Gabriel number 4. And Dylan Gabriel, the only problem with Dylan Gabriel, 6 foot, 200 pounds. However, he can run out the pocket. Okay, now do we want a 6 foot, 200 pound individual running out the pocket in the NFL getting cracked? Probably not. But you know what? This is what they're taught nowadays. This is the pro style offense. This is what we see. The pocket quarterback is kind of like disappeared, so there is a pocket quarterback as number 5, and I'm pretty sure you know who I'm talking about, but we'll talk about him in a moment.
I don't know if you and I agree on number 5.
Dylan Gabriel, just to break some stuff down. Last year, offense, 944 offensive throws, okay? 508 snaps, okay? 508 snaps he had for the pass. That's how many attempts that he took last year throwing. That's a lot. Okay, his offense PFF grading is 86.6. Not bad. Okay, that's overall. I'm sorry, that's for the offense for the team. 86.3 for the offense, and his run 61.8. Okay, so I'm saying is that run with the running back you like out of Oregon, they relied on him a lot to pass the ball. He has some good receivers, and don't forget, his wide receivers weren't all that electric. They were pretty fast. They didn't run fast in the combine. Was Tez Johnson correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Tez Johnson. So that was his number 1 receiver. Not big at all.
No, he's
not
small.
big at all. So that shows that this individual can get the ball into tight little areas, accuracy, lead him on the run. You have to do that. You have to, because a guy that small cannot take the pounding. So you have to lead him. That's what I have at my number 4 in a Oregon offense. And we know Oregon has produced some pretty decent cornerbacks, according to you. Okay.
According to me.
According to you. That's why I have number 4. I think in the NFL, is he a day one starter? No. He's probably an individual that's got to progress and show them that he's always been all his life. He's shown people that he can play, and he was a 5-year starter. He's almost like Bo Nix in the coming into the NFL. So he's been in the NFL in college a long time.
Well, listen, you made a good point. Is he going to be a day one pick? Probably not. So he's not a first rounder. Fantasy wise, ladies and gentlemen out there, quarterbacks who have historically hit all come out of the first round.
Yes.
You're taking chances. The percentages of hits go down a lot after the first round. So is Dylan Gabriel going to be a first round pick? Probably not. But his comps he's going to be probably a good backup, and he could probably start for you for a few games for a lot of the reasons that I probably highlighted with Shedeur. He's going to be accurate. He's going to be quick. Have there been 6 foot, 200-pound quarterbacks in the NFL being successful? Yeah.
Hall of Famers.
Yeah. So,
Drew Brees.
Hey, listen, we never know.
Yes.
I look at this draft coming up, and I think it is very, very weird. It's going to be skewed so much because you have this one group of players that's so good.
Yeah.
That's the running backs, that I think it's going to skew the way the draft goes as far as the success rates, right? So, the success rate for running backs drafted in the first and second round are right up there above 50%. But because there's so many good ones, I think teams are going to wait longer.
Yes.
And it's going to push them back into the third, fourth, fifth rounds.
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
To get more defensive players.
Right.
And it's going to skew the system. So, and I think the same goes with these quarterbacks because there's so few of them and there's so few decent ones. And I think that's going to be skewed too. So,
all right, who's your number 4?
My number 4 is Tyler Shuck from Louisville.
Okay.
All right. So he's your prototypical guy, 6'4", 6'5", 225 pounds. His knock, he's an older guy, just like Bo Nix was coming out, but he dealt with a lot of injuries, and I think that's the biggest knock on him that I would have, his injuries. But he handles himself with a professional. He's used to like a pro type of offense. Again, Louisville didn't have the best of offensive lines, and they didn't have the best of running games. But he threw for over 3,000 yards, and that's a big thing for Louisville. So for him to do that, I think is an impressionable thing. And from the Senior Bowl, a lot of good.
He showcased a lot.
He showcased a lot, and people were very impressed for a guy that didn't get the attention that other quarterbacks did.
Like you just said, get the attention. He didn't get the national notoriety. Correct. So in essence, no one knows him.
Right.
So if he played for someone like Michigan, you would know him. People talk about him. The NFL Network talks about him. But these are the guys that you're doing your deep research on. Now, you say he had no running game. I'm looking at the stats from last year. Louisville, they rated 89.9 for their run game on their offense last year. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So you're saying threw for 3,000 yards with the run game. That's even better. That's impressive. That's even more impressive.
Who's their wide receivers? That's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah. He threw for 3,000 yards. He made something out of nothing, and he's probably the most professional, ready quarterback that I think that's there. Cam Ward, even though they both been in college the same amount of time, 5 years and a little bit more, Shuck is right there under the radar. And don't forget, until Cam Ward went over to Miami last year, no one had heard of Cam Ward either.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's my number 4, Tyler Shuck.
All right. My number 5, Will Howard.
Okay.
Will Howard. All right. Prototypical size, 6'4", 235, is not going to move. He's not going to move out the pocket. So this guy right here is going to have to go to a team that has a decent offensive line. Okay. In a way, listen, Big Ben ran, but Big Ben manipulated the pocket very well. All right, his pocket presence was Hall of Fame pocket presence awareness. I'm not saying this guy is, but he's a big guy. He's a tall guy. Played for Ohio State. He had a good run game. He didn't really have to rely on his arm. He has a big arm. All he has to work on is consistency. All right, you talk about the top 5. I'm saying Will Howard is probably the 5th one. I'm not even. There's no honorable mentions. Quinn Ewers is not on my list. Milroe is not on my list. He's just not on my list.
Okay, well, since it's a good segue, let me put in my 5th one is Jalen Milroe.
Okay.
And the only reason I do have him on my list is because if you're going to talk about fantasy, which is what we do,
all right.
the possibility of him coming now, he's definitely a work in progress. He's not starting day one. And if his comp, his comp is like a Fields or a Richardson, and he can run like Lamar. All right, so. And I already told you I don't like my quarterbacks running. He's got the physicality to be a good runner in the NFL and absorb the hits. Do I want him to do that all the time? No, absolutely not. If you're looking for a project and a guy who come in and give you
like
extra fantasy
he's
points,
Malik Willis.
and extra fantasy points.
That's what he is.
Is Jalen Miller.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. He has some decent wide receivers out there too. You know, he has some good wide receivers in Alabama. Had a decent little run game, a good defense. You know, you're not going to get that. He might, because you might get drafted from a decent, a good team just for a project. See what he can do for a game or two, and try to trade him later on. All right, that's fair. That's what my top five. Your top five. Let's go to where do you want to go next? Do you want to?
Let's go to tight ends.
All right, let's go to tight ends,
and then we're gonna have to speed this up a little bit.
All right, let's go.
All right, do you want to go first?
Stand by. Yeah.
Tight end class is a lot of people
It's unique.
Think it's unique. There is a good core group of players, probably a little bit more than last year, and they said last year's class was good.
All right, my number one tight end is going to be Tyler Warren.
Yeah, we agree on that.
That's my number one tight end. Not because of the receptions he had last year. He has a drop rating. His drop rating is 93.1. So he doesn't drop the ball much.
Yeah, I think
he doesn't drop at
his
all.
His drop. Yeah, you just mentioned his percentage that he catches the ball. So you're right. It's like a 1.8% drop rate, which is what caught my eye. And the other thing that caught my eye is his versatility. He can throw a football for you. He can run the football for you. He can catch the football for you. He's not going to get you yards after the catch. But he does have the prototypical size. He's like, 6'5", 250, 255.
Yes, he is. Now, another thing that caught my eye about Tyler Warren, real quick, that he lined up 50 times last year of snaps at the wide receiver position. Yeah. 50 times. So they're gonna split him out sometimes. All right. The only knock I have on Tyler Warren is this. This is a knock. He doesn't pass block. They don't use him for the run game.
No, there aren't a lot of the tight ends in this class. One of their biggest knocks is that they're not inline pass blockers.
Nope.
And the other thing that I have, the one big knock on Tyler Warren for me is that he showcased himself this year, no doubt. But this was the first year he did it.
Yeah.
And so that, I don't want to say he's a 1-year wonder or anything like that, but
right.
you're gonna have to be more consistent. So, hey, take that as you want.
So who do you have number 2?
Colston Loveland,
so we agree upon
who is more of the inline blocker.
Yes,
all right. He too 6'6", 248. So he's your prototypical tight end that you're used to in the NFL. But he's got wide receiver traits. All right, so he'll go out there and he'll like a big wide receiver in the slot. He can go out there and catch the ball. He's got that athletic ability. His only problem that I see is, again, he's a guy who'll go out there. You tell him to run 7 yards, he'll run 7 yards, he'll catch the ball, and then he'll fall down because he doesn't have much yak.
Yes.
After his catching.
Yes.
So
I agree with you. Also, Colston Loveland. Another thing about Colston, just to add to your stats over there, he played 110 snaps in the slot receiver position. That's fantastic. All right. At the wide receiver position, 43 snaps at the wide receiver position. So they move him around. Now, the only thing here is one thing. Pass block. Only 6 snaps of pass block? 6 in 2024? That's what, according to PFF, that's what it's showing me. You see it right here. 6.
Listen, he's been. I'm not looking at that as too much because there was a different coach in Michigan last year as the year before.
I understand.
He still produced the same when it came to catching the ball and receiving yards.
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
he's a consistent year after year production guy, and you know what you're going to get when you're getting him. I would think that Harbaugh would love him if he fell to them at the Chargers.
So going on your yak yards last year, Colston Loveland, 290 yak yards to 592 Tyler Warren yak yards last year. Okay, that's just to add that. All right, his hands drop rating 84.3 to Tyler Warren's 93.1. Okay, so that shows you that. And what he does is his pass blocking is 30.9, whereas Tyler Warren is 56.7. So they utilize Tyler Warren to block a little bit more, where Colson Love is not blocking him. And his comps for Colson Love is saying is who? Travis Kelce. That's what they're saying.
Well, I got some comps that I've seen that they're comparing him to Evan Ingram.
Okay. That's
All right. So, and Evan Ingram's not an inline blocker.
It doesn't block at all.
No.
Right.
So,
all right. Who do you have at number 3?
all right. So listen, there's a definite tier.
It's a
here.
drop-off.
It's right. But the second tier is not that bad, and
No.
and there are a lot of problems in the second tier. You could point to any one thing. Most of them everyone's got issues, but the second tier's got issues.
What do you have?
So my second guy is Elijah Arroyo. You talk about Cam Ward's
Your third guy.
fantastic season. My third guy is Elijah Arroyo for me.
Yes.
All right. I think he was another guy who the knock on him. He's had injuries. All right. In 22, I think he tore his ACL. 23 wasn't really much on tape, and 24 is when he blew up, and he blew up because of Cam Ward. And he's another one of these guys who came out of nowhere and had a big year, right? 6'5", 250. He's athletic, and his name came up and shot up the boards because of his effectiveness in the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
And here's another guy who's not going to be necessarily an inline blocker, but he's going to be more of a big slot, and he'll be able to catch the ball for you. So to me, of the remaining tight ends that we have to look forward to, I think I got to take him number 3.
Okay.
And his comps, and this is what I love his comps because
Don't tell me Gronk.
no, Julius Thomas and Zach Ertz.
Okay, that's fair. But it says here, according to this, 69.4% of I'm sorry, his grade 69.4 for blocking for pass blocking, which is pretty good. Okay, for a tight end, because sometimes you could send him out, sometimes you could keep him in. You could trust him to protect your quarterback, max protection. All right. Number 3, I have Harold Finn Jr.
Okay.
I have him at number 3.
I just I have him number 5 on my list.
Okay.
But he's on my list. Yes.
All right, Harold Finn Jr. Now, if you want to talk about a guy, pure athleticism, pure receiving, pure drops, pure fumbles. He doesn't fumble the ball. He's Mr. Reliable, is Harold Finn Jr. The only problem with Harold Finn Jr. is he a tight end or is he a wide receiver?
Yes.
So is he an overgrown wide receiver? Did he have too many burgers and became a tight end?
So he's 6'2", 238.
That's what I'm
to
saying to
your
you.
point.
So are you an H back? I mean, are you going to be considered an H back, or are you going to be a hybrid back?
Well, listen,
what are we
it's a
doing here?
copycat league, right?
Right.
Big slot is the phrase in
Right.
the NFL.
However, you label him as a tight end. So I'm going to put him as my number 3. And only problem is his pass blocking, 38.2. So he doesn't block at all. All right. He led the nation in receiving last year as a tight end position. 128 targets, 100 receptions. All right, 78.1% of the receptions with the yard. 1,342 yards receiving last year. All right. But this is the problem I have.
Tell me, what's the problem?
99 snaps at the wide receiver position. So what is he? Is he a tight end or is he a wide receiver? What are we doing here with this
I'll
guy?
tell you what he is. I believe he's going to be what his comp says he is, and that's Jonnu Smith.
Yeah.
So again, a guy who's going to go out there, he's not going to block for you, but he's going to catch the ball
Yeah.
for you, and he's going to be a mismatch to corners or
slower
slot
linebacker.
corners.
Yeah.
He's going to be as big as a linebacker, but he's going to be faster than him. So
I mean, that's a good
are
problem
there
to have.
spots? Are there spots in the NFL for him? Definitely. And again, just like everyone else, you got to find the perfect rookie to fit your system.
Yeah.
But I can understand why he's your number 4. To me, he was my number 5.
And he only pass blocked 7 times last year.
Yeah, well,
7. But okay, that's who I have number 3. Who do you have number 4?
that was your number 3 or 4.
What was that? I had Warren,
We did
Loveland, and now I have Finnan. And just to add one more thing on Fannin, in the slot position, all right, snaps. He took 123 snaps in the slot position. 99 is the wide receiver position.
Yeah, again, big slot, like I said. But we'll see.
So go ahead.
All right, my next guy is
yeah.
Mason Taylor.
Oh, I have him on my list.
Okay, good. Well, I have him
So
on
I
my
have
list
3.
as number 4.
Right, Mason's number 4 for me as well. So we're just
So he's a little bigger than Fannin. He's
Yes.
6'4", around 250. So he's more of almost your typical inline blocking type of tight end. he's not great at anything, but he's good at everything. He's athletic. He catches everything. I think PFF, you'll see that.
Yeah.
He's got the pedigree, Jason Taylor's son.
Yes, he does.
And his comps are Hunter Henry. So when you think of Jason Taylor, you're gonna have Jason Taylor. I think of Mason Taylor, you're gonna think of Hunter Henry.
Yeah.
That type of player.
He's a possession tight end.
Yeah, he's gonna block for you, but he's definitely gonna go out there and catch the ball. And I think his stock rose as the combine came around.
I'm going to add something I believe what his father told him to increase your stock in the NFL. In my opinion, he went to LSU. Obviously, he had a decent season, had a great season. Pass blocking. Okay, we all know that the NFL loves a pass blocking tight end. Everyone needs one, correct?
Yeah,
everyone needs them to help in the run game, to help in that improves your stock. So last year, Mason Taylor, as you could see, 93 snaps pass blocking.
Yeah, they trust him out there. Hey, well, listen, he's with Nussmeier. Nussmeier was going to throw the ball down the field, to his wide receivers. So obviously, you need to pass protect.
In the slot, he took 248 snaps in the slot. That's not chump change.
No,
that's not chump change whatsoever. Okay. In the wide receiver position, 50 snaps at the wide receiver position. Okay. His hands are phenomenal. Like you said, he's graded as a 90.1, so he has good hands.
Yeah.
So in essence, if you throw the ball, if you want him to sit down in the zone, he'll catch it.
Yes.
Okay. It's not like he's running slants. He's not running in inseam too much.
He's a zone buster.
He's going to be a zone buster, blocker. So that's who we have at number 4. Okay. Are we going to draft him in the NFL? I mean, in fantasy wise, something you're going to have to think about.
Listen, he might be a day 3 pick. You never know.
In the NFL, yes, we're talking about fantasy wise. I'm not too sure if he's going to give you those fancy numbers that you're looking for.
Well, you're about to tell me number 5 because I basically told you mine. But which one of our 5 are possibly NFL fantasy numbers types of guys? Can we say any one of them?
2.
Warren,
Loveland, and possibly Fannin. Possibly. All right, that's who you have.
I normally would. I definitely agree with Tyler Warren because his comp was Dallas Clark, and I could see his versatility doing something out there. The fact that he's got the athleticism and he's big enough to do a lot of things, I think gets him on the field more. The other guys all have issues. One thing or another, they all have issues.
Right.
And if you take a look at this past year's NFL draft, Brock Bowers is definitely an outlier. But the other 2 guys that they were talking highly about, Ben Sinnott and Theo Johnson, they don't even play.
This is what I'm saying is, these are the guys. Mason Taylor might be a Ben Sinnott.
Yeah, you might be right.
That's what I'm saying.
So, but what gets them noticed?
Blocking.
Is there right? But blocking doesn't get you fantasy points.
I understand that. I'm not saying you're going to draft this guy, but that gets them on the field and it opens things up for them. You're right.
All right, give me your number 5.
Is Arroyo.
Okay. Then we basically all touch
that's pretty
5.
much it. That's pretty much it.
All right, let's go to the wide receivers.
Oh, we're leaving the studs for the last position.
There's so much. Listen.
All right.
There might be controversy with that.
Oh, wow. All right. Who do you have as your number 1?
This was tough for me to decide.
Yeah, this is tough.
But I think what it all boils down to is, and I've already said it a couple times here, is what's your pick? What's your fancy?
Yeah.
Because in this year's wide receiver class, it's not as good as last year's.
No.
But last year's guys were all alpha X receivers. Atunze, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison. This year you kind of got a hybrid. Do you want an X? Do you want a slot? It's kind of like one of those 2 choices.
I see what you just did right there. I have a slot in there as one of my top 5.
So, but all in all, I am going to go with my number 1 as again consensus, but I don't know, it's changing. My number 1 is Ted McMillan.
Yeah.
Because he really is. You're 6'5", 212. He didn't run at the combine, but he's probably running in the 4.5. So he's not a speedster. He's not going to blow by anyone. But he's a contested catch monster, and he's got the comps of like a Mike Evans. And if you're looking for an X receiver for your team, then I think that's the number 1 guy you're going to choose.
I have him as well as number 1. I had to. Like you said, though, he's 6'5". Only problem is they grade him as a 71.5 for his drop radius. That's pretty low for a guy who's 6'5" that could jump out the roof over everyone. If you really think about it. All right, but I do have him number one based on his comps. Based on his attributes, 6'5". I mean, you don't find that. You can't teach that height. You can't teach that separation. You can't even though he didn't run a blazing speed, but he is going to get open in the NFL, and they're going to utilize him. Who's this comp out there in the NFL anyway?
Mike Evans.
Oh, Mike Evans. Yeah, he's not that fast. He'll get open. He needs to put a little bit of weight on.
He will eventually over some time. Yeah.
130 targets last year, 84 receptions, 64.6 percentage of receiving, 1,316 yards receiving last year. For a big guy, 8 touchdowns. For a big guy,
I know. You would probably expect him when you get in close just to toss the ball up to him and have him win every jump ball.
Yeah.
But that wasn't their game plan.
Yeah.
But the thing that I like about him too is that he's produced year after year. Yeah, if you take a look at his seasons are all the same. He's got the same number of catches and targets. So he's a consistent guy who's been proven that he can do it more than 1 year.
All right. Can I go with my number 2?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is going to be a little controversial. But it goes back to that slot. I know he's not going to get picked up, but we're talking about fantasy-wise, and depending on where he gets drafted and how they utilize him, I got the next Cooper Kupp.
Oh, the next Cooper Kupp.
I got the next Cooper Kupp. Okay. I have the next Wes Walker.
Julian Edelman?
Julian Edelman. And who do you think that is?
Well, my plan, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you because I have a guy in mind, but it might not be your guy.
I have Xavier Restrepo.
Okay.
That's who I have. Okay,
right.
let's go.
Not bad. I wouldn't have guessed it.
Let's go to the comps. 88.8 is his rating in his catch drop radius. He doesn't drop many balls. Okay. 83.5 for his receiving. This is his grade, which is phenomenal. Okay, I know Cam Ward was giving him the ball. He peppered him last year. Okay, peppered him. 95 targets last year, I believe, in the slot receiver position, or if he played in the outside. 69 receptions, 1,127 yards receiving, 11 touchdowns. He's not that tall. But we need guys like this in the NFL.
Doing the research, I did see Restrepo. Restrepo is definitely, a guy. When we talk about the running backs, there's going to be a lot of guys on the running backs that you could probably keep in your opinion, put in the top 5. Restrepo is a guy who's there. My only thing with Restrepo is just like Cam Ward and just like Arroyo, he's 1 year.
I get it.
I need consistency to show.
But it shows you that with a quarterback, he can produce.
Yes, he can.
Okay.
Yes,
he can produce. So that's my number 2. Okay. I mean, there's more in the slot. I'll give you one more thing. I do apologize. I'll give you one more thing. Let me see here. In the slot position, Xavier Restrepo played 448 snaps in the slot position. He's a slot receiver.
No, he definitely is. You're right.
And we know in the NFL, to matchup nightmares, they're going to put the nickel cornerback, dime cornerback on them, or they might hurry up the offense, and they might catch a linebacker on this individual, and he's going to blow right past them.
Yeah, I mean, and again, his draft, where he goes in the draft is going to determine a lot in your fantasy team. But no, it's not. His comp is I agree with you, and we'll see. Is he going to make an impact this year? It's going to depend on what team drafts him.
Correct.
But there's a possibility, right?
All right. So who you have
my number two guy has got the comps of a JSN and Rashee Rice. All right. He's another guy.
Ohio State?
No. Another guy who's produced on multiple years, although this was a down year, but that was a quarterback issue. And it's Luther Burden III. I know you and I disagree on a lot of things.
Yeah.
But we're talking about a guy who's 5'11", 208.
That scares me.
And if you're telling me he's got a comp like JSN or Rashee Rice, he's got because of his consistency early on in his career, I think he's going to get the draft stock to make him more of a day one starter than maybe a Restrepo. And that's the only reason why I have him up here in the top 5 is I'm believing that their draft stock is going to get them over the hump, and that's what differentiates them from anyone else. So that's my guy, 5'11", 208, JSN, Rashee Rice. My only question is he always going to just be a slot guy, or does he have the potential to go to the outside? As an X, I don't see it, but maybe as a second receiver. So as a slot or second receiver, that's my only thing with Luther.
The 5'11" scares me. Okay, you're gonna put him out in the outside. You know, to me, 5'11", I get it, JSN, but
Don't be afraid of JSN. What do you think of Chris Olave?
he's speed. He has a lot of speed.
Okay.
I'm not sure what Luther Burton's speed is. I don't know what his 40 time is.
He didn't
Right.
test out there.
You know, 81 targets, 61 receptions, 678 yards. He had a down year. His drop rate is 81.7, receiving 80.2. All right, that's his rankings. Not bad at all. But we'll see. We'll see where he falls. And okay, that's fine. That's who you have in number 2. So
Yeah, that's my number 2.
all right.
Give me your number 3.
Oh, my number 3.
Is it controversial?
No, not really. Not really. You know who my number 3 is. I just can't find him on my list here on my board.
That's why I write notes.
That's okay.
Be prepared, Kamish.
I'm prepared. The wide receiver out of
It's scaring me that you got to go.
at Mississippi.
Trey Harris?
Trey Harris is my number 3.
So now you're going. I can see your thinking here is you want these X receivers.
I want the X receivers because, again, unfortunately, in NFL, there's only a few slot receivers that get the ball much. It's always the X's. X's or Y's, either or. And the reason why I'm taking Trey Harris is, number one, he was getting thrown the ball by a decent quarterback coming out the draft, who I have as number 1. That's just me.
Yep.
Played in a good system, in a pass-heavy system, so it's a pro offense. That's number 2. Number 3, body type.
Yeah, 6'2", 220.
I mean, again, he can outmuscle cornerbacks, you know, especially when he gets a little older, you know, maybe a year or two, gets a little bit more definition in his game, in his route running tree. I believe, I don't know what his speed is.
4.5.
That's not bad for a wide receiver that big.
No, it's. I mean, we all assume that the other big X receiver in this draft is going to be McMillan, Tet,
Right.
and he's about the same type of speed.
There you go. So I think he's going to try to hopefully outmuscle the guy. Listen, his comps to me is A.J. Brown. So that's his comp, depending on where he falls to.
I don't think. Yeah, maybe.
That's me.
I got comps of him with George Pickens and Christian Watson. He's on my list, but he's number 5 for me.
Okay.
Not 3. But he does have the route tree, and you're right. He did play with Jackson Dart, so he's got the experience of, and he's done it in multiple years. So I cannot argue with that pick.
Who do you have? That was number 3.
That was number 3.
Who you
My
have
number
4?
3. I'm going back to a guy who comps Chris Olave, or a younger Juju or Brandon Cooks. Right?
Who do you have?
Actually, it's not Juju. It's Brandon Cooks. It's
it
Matt
Ted?
Golden.
Okay.
All right. What I'll tell you what impressed me with Matt Golden.
Well, the speed.
Well, besides the speed, he's 5'11", 191. So
Ran a 4.3.
He did. He ran a 4.3. Yes, you're right. So he is really, really fast, right?
Okay.
But I'm not concerned about all that. What I liked about him is that I don't think Quinn Ewers is a great quarterback.
No.
And if you take a look at the highlight package that from Matt Golden, he's constantly adjusting to the ball. He's always twisting his body, stopping short, adjusting, going to the left or to the right. The fact that you can do that on the run tells me that in the NFL, when you got cornerbacks all over you, draped all over you, that's going to lead to success. And then once he catches the ball, he's off to the races. And I think that's what brings him into my number. He's a smaller X receiver. And if you bring up the stats, I don't think he played a lot in the slot.
No.
But he's definitely a guy on the outside, even though he's not going to be your 6'2", 6'3" guy. But he could be, who knows, maybe it's Tyreek Hill.
No.
You never know.
No. I have him Golden Tate.
Well, listen, like I said, his comps were Olave. Now, if Olave ever put it together and got a good quarterback,
Yes.
then maybe we could really see what Chris Olave could do. But no one could doubt that when he does get the ball in his hands, take a look at his rookie year, he was dangerous with it. And I see Matt Golden fulfilling that same type of thing. And I would love to see Matt Golden go into a team like, say, the Texans. They already have a bigger guy in Nico Collins.
I don't know. Fantasy-wise, I wouldn't draft him. He has too many mouths to feed there.
Well, who's the other mouth?
Well, you have
No.
Nick Collins, Nico Collins. And
That's it.
And you have the other one just got the the one that came from Jacksonville.
Christian Kirk?
Christian Kirk.
I don't think Christian Kirk is going to be demanding too many miles.
But you're not going to have a rookie getting the ball the way he does it. Because look at how he treated his rookies last year. Tank Dell, I mean, he did give him the ball. Tank Dell was a little light. And how tall is
5'11".
5'11".
He's not Tank Dell.
He's not Tank Dell. He's got a little bit more size than Tank Dell.
Yeah. Tank Dell is Tess Johnson.
Okay.
He's way too small. He's Xavier Worthy.
All right. Let me go to my number 4, correct? Luther Burton.
Okay.
That's my number 4. We talked about him.
Yeah, we talked about him.
Pretty much, but he is my number 4 on my list.
Anything special that stands out to you real quick before we go on to my number 4?
No.
All right, my number 4 is Emeka Ibuka.
Yeah, that's my number 5.
Okay. So he's 6'1", 205, a little bigger than Matt Golden. He's in his 4.4s, running wise. The reason why I put him down below Matt Golden is because he's always a number 2. Yeah. He's had the chance. He was at Ohio State. He had the chance to be a number 1 several years, but someone always came. And now a rookie is a number 1 with Jeremiah Smith.
A baby came in and took over your number 1 position. Yeah, I agree.
Now, is it because he's not an outside guy and he's more of a slot? That could be it. And that's going to limit you. I mean, great. If the NFL puts you that's 6'1", 220 for a slot, or actually 205 for the slot, it's a pretty big guy. He might, create a lot of mismatches. And his comp is Juju, a young Juju Smith.
But let me ask you this question with the creating mismatches. We know a lot of NFL head coaches. Are there many NFL head coaches cerebral? How you use that word? Cerebral enough to move him around to get him open to create mismatches? No,
not many.
They're
so stubborn.
They're not. So let's just say, Mike McDaniel is, McVay is.
Yeah.
Okay. Kyle Shanahan is. Mm-hmm. But if he gets drafted to another, Arthur Smith, is Arthur Smith going to do it for him? No.
Well, this is why I said,
depending on where he gets drafted.
As a team sitting there, as a GM on draft day, why would I pick a player that's strong doing one type of thing and then try to force him into a system that he's not used to?
There you go.
And I think that's where a lot of players that coming out of college look great and they just don't translate in the NFL because of where they got picked.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, those are our top 5.
So going back, Emeka, 271 plays in a slot, 56 in a wide receiver.
Yeah. Again, a slot guy.
Yep.
And that's why his comp is probably like Juju.
You take him over Restrepo? 2 slot receivers.
I would take him over Restrepo only because of he's consistent.
Okay. His catch is 81.8. Restrepo has a better rating for catch. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying, compare the targets and compare the catches.
And the quarterback that was throwing him the ball.
And, well, listen, there's a lot of things that we don't know there.
All right.
We don't know the ADOT. We don't know the difficulty of the catch. We don't know if he was blanketed by a bunch of people. I know stats show a lot of things. They don't show everything. I take the guy that's consistently, like I said, he's consistently been their number 2 wide receiver in Ohio State for the last 3 years.
Better system. This is Ohio State here.
I understand that, I'm taking that.
Okay,
I'm taking that into consideration.
Didn't he have the quarterback that played for the Texans a couple years ago? All right, Stroud. Then. He has Stroud with him. Restrepo didn't have that.
No.
He finally got a good quarterback, and look what he did. All right. I digress. Let's move on to the mother lode, to the pinnacle.
The coup de grace.
The coup de grace of fantasy football.
Yeah, the deepest running back class that they've predicted since probably 2020 or 2017, depending who you listen to.
Let's get to it. Number 1.
Do we even need to go number 1?
All right,
unless you got something that's controversial.
No, both of us have Ashton Gently. We all understand that. The whole world understands that. His run, grade 97.2. Blocking is 58.3. So it's not like he's a big back. I mean, you're going to be blocking big NFL players out there, NFL linebackers or defensive ends, give him a chip, whatever it may be. It's 58.3. He played on an offense that ran the ball 95. The rating was 95.3, so it was phenomenal. It was the best in the nation last year, I believe. And
you have any concerns?
I do. There's one concern for me.
Give me the concern.
313 attempts, 348 snaps. I know he's young. 313 I mean, that's
a lot of mileage.
it's fantastic for fantasy because he's always getting the ball. We understand that, but wow, that's a lot of mileage. 2,287 yards, 28 touchdowns, only 2 fumbles, which is phenomenal. But that is my only concern with Mr. Genti.
You don't have a concern. I know a lot of people have brought it up, but I think it was put to rest. The conference?
Yeah, the conference, of course. But you know what? Talent is talent.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
It is what I mean. You saw
a lot
it.
of people are going to say against Penn State they bottled them up, but you want to know something? Did they? I mean, they looked like they did, but he still gained over 100 yards from scrimmage.
Yeah.
So if that's the best you can throw at him, which is your entire team, and he still gets that, I think he showed you that he could do it.
Absolutely.
All right. So we don't have a problem with Genti. I don't know what you have as his comp, but they talked about a little bit of Doug Martin.
No. Doug Martin.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know who you have. He's only 5'8".
I'm not putting Doug Martin to Genti. I'm not doing that.
All right. Give me a comp. Put you on. I'll let you think about it.
Yeah, let me think.
All right.
My
number two is Marion Hampton.
I knew you were gonna go Marion Hampton.
I'm sorry, but he's got your prototypical NFL type build right now.
He's
6 feet 220, runs a 4.4. I mean, I think you pretty much want a guy on your team like that. Is he shifty? You and I both saw the tape. He's not this guy who's going to be a lot of lateral juking ability. We got that. Is he a little shifty once he gets outside the box? Yeah, he's made people miss. I've seen the tape on that too. He can catch the ball, which also makes him, we talk about what do you do to stand out, to make yourself more useful in the NFL. You can't be just one aspect. Can he run block? What's his run block?
I'll tell you right now. His run block.
Or pass block, I'm sorry.
Run block.
Pass block.
Keep talking. I'll look for it.
Anyway, I look at a guy who can move a pile, who's going to get hit and withstand those hits. A guy who could be on the field for 3 downs. And what's his pass blocking?
54.8.
All right.
Genti 44.3.
A guy who's going to be on the field. He can put down most of the guys that are coming on the blitzes are cornerbacks. He's going to easily outsize them and put them on their back. To me, again, this is going to be one of those. There's a lot of good running backs, but to me, there's a 1A super guy, and that's Genti, and then there's a 1B who's below him, and that's a Marion, and then you're going to get a bunch of guys with a bunch of different issues at number whatever after number 2. So a Marion on a team going to the right system, I think would be he's going to be a good player in the NFL. Who's your number 2?
Wow. Well, just to piggyback off, I have Hampton number 3 for me. Okay. Number 2 for me, Mr. Caleb Johnson. Number 2 for me. Okay. 262 snaps, 240 attempts, 1,500 yards plus, 21 touchdowns. His run 86.7 fumbles, phenomenal fumble. That's the reason why I took him. Believe it or not, 91.6 is his rating. Now, in the NFL, we all understand that when we watch fantasy football, when a rookie fumbles, what happens?
Well, it's not only a rookie. Look at what happened to Khalil Herbert last year with the Bengals. First snap, fumble, bench.
That's what I'm saying. That's just me. If you're going to have a rookie coming out and he's going to, let's say, start, or they're giving him an opportunity and he starts fumbling, what usually happens? They sit him for 2 or 3 games.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. Believe it or not, it shouldn't be just the fumbling or the hands holding onto the football. It should not be what you're looking for. That's not the most. But he is impressive. Okay, he is very, very impressive out there. His run block, his pass blocking is 37.4. So he might be a maybe a 2-down back.
This is going to be one of those instances where I tell you stats show you things, but not everything.
That's correct.
He played for Iowa, right?
Yeah.
One of the lowest passing teams in college football.
Yeah, so they ran.
So you're not going to see him pass blocking a lot.
Well, he had 25 targets, 22 receptions, 190 yards receiving. So with a better offense, with a better quarterback, he's going to do I think he's going to do much better than that. That's why I have Mr. Johnson number 2.
Well, I have Caleb number 5 on my list, and it's not. You could throw the times out. He ran a 4.5 at the 4.57 at the combine. Mm-hmm. Okay, that doesn't mean anything. Alvin Kamara ran a 4.5. Bucky Irving ran a 4.5. I don't care. He can catch the ball.
Yeah.
My only reason why I have him number 5 on my list, which isn't bad, it's still 5 out of a lot of great guys, is because his offensive line was one of the best in the nation in college football. And if you see, you and I both saw watched the tapes on him. He's running through. You could drive a car through some of the holes that he's
You're not
going
going to get
through.
that in the NFL.
You're not, and that's why it concerns me a little bit about what he can do if he doesn't get that running start. Like I almost want to say that he's going to be like Derrick Henry. You run at the line and it's congested, and then he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, we see that a lot. We see that a lot.
That's my only concern with Caleb is how much of it was his own physical effort compared to how much of his offensive line. Omarion Hampton, who I compared him to, he didn't have that. He had a good offensive line, but not as good as Iowa, and he was making something out of nothing most of the time.
All right. That's
All right.
fair.
My number 2, where we at? Number 3, right?
Yeah, I gave you my number 1, 2, and 3. That's correct.
So number 3 for me is Travion Henderson.
Yes.
Here we got a guy who's 5'10", 208, 4'3". There's going to be controversy with number 3 or 4, depending if you have Kinshawn up there or not. The fact is, this guy didn't take a full workload. That was the whole point. They got Judkins so that no one running back would get that much of a load to carry the team. So, a lot of people are going to say, hey, listen, can he carry on an NFL type level? Is he going to be a 3-down back and carry the workload? Is he going to be able to get you 200 carries, 250 carries a year? That's probably the biggest question. The other question is he was injured a little bit in college, but in the right system, a lot of comparisons to, he's the Jahmyr Gibbs of a system. And he could definitely catch the ball. And this is the reason why he's number 3 on my list. Again, I'm going to point back to what Omarion Hampton could do. He can pass block.
Yes, believe it or not. I was looking at Travion Henderson, who I have number 4. His pass block rating is 67.3, which is very, very good. He's a big body running back. He is going to pass block. They can. When he learns the system or the schemes a little bit better, he's going to know he can prove himself to protect the quarterback out there, which will, in essence, will lead him to more playing time.
Absolutely,
okay, and
yes.
that's what you want in fantasy. 100%.
And when in fantasy, listen, a lot of these, and we can go back. How many times you're in the middle of a game and your running back's only got 5-6 points on the board for you? All of a sudden, it's garbage time, and the people are trying to come back. The teams are trying to come back, and you get this one guy who, because of his pass blocking ability, is on the field and he's getting dump off passes.
Yeah, he's called Samaje Perine.
Yeah,
that's what he's called, and he's a gnat, and we can't stand
Travion Henderson is not a gnat, but he's going to be one of those guys who's going to be on the field for you.
Yes,
at the end of the game.
Yes,
okay.
I have Mr. Henderson number 4.
Okay,
for me. So I'm not even going to talk about it because we just talked about him. Okay, I agree everything you say. That's the reason why I'm looking at him. And he doesn't have a lot of tread on his tires. He had 150 attempts last year.
Yes.
Only 119 yards, I believe 119 carries, 825 yards, rushing 8 touchdowns, which he averaged 6.9 yards per carry. And that's phenomenal in college. Splitting time with my number 5.
Oh, your number 5, yes.
All right.
Yeah, he's my number 4, you're number 5. So we pretty much have everyone up there. There's no controversy here.
We just have him on the list where we're going to pick him. That's all.
So Quinshawn, is there anything you want to say about Quinshawn?
No, Quinshawn, the same thing. The same thing as Mr. Henderson, Quinshawn Junkins. He had a little bit more attempts last year. 212 attempts, 156 carries, 839 yards rushing. If you think about one running back out there, if you give him all those carries, that's what, 1,600, 1,700 yards rushing. That's, per stats. 10 touchdowns. All right, 1 fumble. Only 1. His stats, his ratings. Rushing 87.2 and pass blocking pass blocking. Let me look at it right now. Quinshawn Junkins, pass blocking a 54.6. He can pass block. Okay, he is. He's not on the field to pass block much, but if need be, he will be out there.
Yes.
I think Quinshawn Junkins will fit perfectly, unfortunately, with the Raiders. I've always said it.
Well, I could see him also going to the Ravens.
No, not the. They have 35 running backs. If he goes to the Ravens, don't even draft him.
Junkins. Listen, most of these 5 guys that we just said will be day 1 or day 2. They'll be first, second round guys.
That's correct.
I believe that they'll all be within the 2 rounds. But there are a lot of other running backs out there in this class. You could have put a Bashal Tootin in there. You could put
there's
a
a lot
Dylan
of them in
Sampson
there.
up there.
Yeah.
Cam Scadaboo up there.
There's plenty.
DJ Giddens, Devin Neal, all of them. Damian Martinez, who's probably the youngest guy in the class. I believe he's only 20 years old.
And believe it or not, Mr. Martinez had the best. Miami had the best rushing off. I believe had the second best rushing offense. I believe in the college football last year, 2025.
The reason why
2024.
none of these guys made my list and probably yours is because I don't see an NFL team taking one of these guys
and starting them.
In the first or second round. So I'm just trying to highlight guys. This is a very, very deep class. And there's a LaQuint Allen. There's I can keep going on and on about this.
You're not gonna have a room on your roster to draft these guys. These
no.
guys are the ones that keep your eye on your watch list,
There
on your
might be,
teams,
yeah.
and just keep them on there, and hopefully pick them up 2 weeks prior to anyone to the NFL Network talking about them, because
That's right.
once they talk about them, forget
It's
about
over.
it. You're not gonna touch them. So hopefully we'll give you the insights of the guys that you could put on your watch list, and everyone can just be quiet about it, and you could talk to yourself about him.
And anyone watching from Sunday night's Dynasty Fantasy Football League, we've done our research, guys. You're not getting the wool over us. You're not pulling the wool over our eyes.
No.
All right.
No. All right.
Anyway, that was a long one.
That was a long one. That's all I have. That's all we have for the top five. What we feel a wide receiver, quarterback, tight end, and running back position. All right. Obviously, it's gonna all determine where they get drafted. That's who we feel. We'll see what happens on the NFL draft coming up next month, and hopefully we'll see. And juices start flowing again next month. So if you like the program, please like and subscribe, comment. Yeah, hit the button.
Hit the button.
Hit the button. I do appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate you coming out to the Cove. Thank you
Yeah,
very
yeah.
much. Thank you for your time.
All right, Commissioner.
You guys be safe. Bye-bye.